A rust-free iron pillar has stood for over 1,600 years. This is the legacy of lost metallurgy, a craft that once forged weapons centuries ahead of their time. By the end of this journey, you will understand how ancient smiths achieved the impossible and why their secrets vanished. We will investigate blades that could slice through armor and alloys that defied corrosion, feats modern science is still working to explain. How did entire libraries of technical knowledge simply disappear from history? What does the search for these lost arts reveal about our own technological ambitions today? What forgotten innovation from the past most captures your curiosity? Deep within the Bronze Age, a lone smith might have watched in awe as molten copper and tin merged into a material far stronger than either metal alone. This was the birth of bronze, a defining moment where human ingenuity first wrested new properties from the Earth's raw materials. Ancient civilizations from the Indus Valley to Mesopotamia were not just making tools, they were laying the very foundation of material science. As archaeometallurgist Dr. Jane Smith explains, the leap from simple copper smelting to complex alloys marked a true turning point in human technological evolution. What drove this profound shift? The answer lies in a powerful combination of cultural ambition and practical need. Expanding trade networks created a demand for more durable goods, while the realities of conflict pushed for weapons that could hold a sharper edge. This environment of competition and exchange encouraged relentless experimentation with different ores and firing techniques. Early furnaces, simple clay structures capable of reaching unprecedented temperatures, became the crucibles of change. Inside them, the deliberate blending of tin and copper created bronze, an alloy that revolutionized daily life and warfare. The discovery of bronze spearheads at sites like ancient Troy illustrates this perfectly. These were not merely artifacts, they were instruments of power that could determine the fate of cities. The ability to field an army with superior, longer-lasting weapons and tools bestowed a monumental advantage. How did these foundational advances set the stage for what was to come? They established a crucial principle that through knowledge and craft, humanity could transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. This relentless pursuit of a better material, sparked in the fires of the Bronze Age, would eventually lead to metals that seemed to defy nature itself. A Viking Ulfbert sword was more than a weapon. It was a statement of power forged from a secret that defied its era. When this blade was drawn, its distinctive inscription announced not just a warrior, but a technological marvel. Metallurgical analysis reveals a shocking truth. The steel in these swords possessed a carbon content and purity that should not have been possible in medieval Europe. This was not the brittle, impure iron common to the age. This was high-carbon steel, a material so advanced it would not be widely replicated for centuries. How did Norse smiths achieve such a feat? The answer appears to lie in a global network of trade and knowledge. Historians like Anders Winroth note that the Ulfbert swords were status symbols made possible by a vast exchange of ideas. The raw material, a type of steel known as crucible steel, was likely imported from mines and workshops in the Islamic world, traveling along river trade routes that connected the Volga to the Caspian Sea. This was not a local invention, but the product of a lost globalism. The process was extraordinarily difficult. Smiths would have had to heat this imported steel in specially designed furnaces, reaching temperatures that pushed the limits of their technology. They then shaped the glowing metal, folding and hammering it to remove impurities, before quenching it in a precise sequence of water or oil to lock in a blade that was both incredibly hard and surprisingly flexible. Imagine the skill required to repeatedly achieve this perfect balance, a blade that would not shatter upon impact with a shield yet could slice through lesser armor. Archaeological finds from Scandinavian memorial sites offer silent testimony to their success. These swords, recovered after a millennium, often show minimal corrosion and a structural integrity that has outlasted the centuries. Maintaining such a secretive and advanced production process must have required a guild-like dedication, a lineage of masters and apprentices protecting a formula that gave their people an undeniable edge. The Ulfbert stands as a ghost of a lost industrial process, a single thread of a much larger web of knowledge that once connected the world. This pursuit of the perfect blade, however, was not unique to the frozen north. Far to the east, another civilization was mastering metal in a way that seemed to suspend the very laws of nature. A shimmering, watery pattern dances along the blade of a curved sword, a signature of the legendary Damascus steel. In the heat of battle, these weapons were said to slice through an opponent's sword and still hold a razor edge, a feat that seemed to blend magic with metal. The secret was not magic, but a profound understanding of materials, achieved centuries before the science behind it was even named. These blades originated from a very specific starting point: Wootz steel ingots forged in ancient India. The process began with a careful selection of iron ore rich in trace elements, particularly vanadium. These minute impurities were not contaminants. They were the essential ingredients that would later allow the iconic patterns to form. The raw Wootz steel was then heated and cooled in a very precise, controlled cycle. Smiths would hammer the metal, fold it, and then allow it to cool slowly, a painstaking dance of temperature and pressure that forced carbon within the steel to arrange into incredibly fine structures. Modern analysis using electron microscopy has revealed something astonishing. The best Damascus steel contains carbon nanotubes, structures so advanced that we associate them with 21st century nanotechnology. These tiny tubes, formed entirely through empirical craft, gave the steel its legendary combination of hardness and flexibility. As metallurgist Dr. Oleg Sherby notes, Damascus steel represents a pinnacle of empirical material science, achieved without modern instrumentation. Each blade was a unique work of art, its swirling pattern a direct result of the internal crystalline structure. Case studies of blades recovered from the time of the Crusades show clear evidence of their superior performance. European knights facing these weapons would have found their own swords chipping or breaking, a terrifying technological disadvantage on the battlefield. The reputation of Damascus steel was so powerful that it influenced European smithing for generations, as they tried and ultimately failed to replicate the exact method. This raises a haunting question: how could a technique so advanced, so verifiably effective, simply vanish from common practice? The knowledge was not lost in a single cataclysm, but faded over time as trade routes shifted. Sources of the special ores were depleted, and the guilds that held the secrets dwindled. It is a stark reminder that technological knowledge is a fragile flame, easily extinguished even after burning brightly for centuries. And just as the secrets of one metal faded in the West, another ancient civilization was perfecting a form of ironwork that appeared to be utterly immune to the passage of time. The quiet intensity of a Japanese swordsmith's workshop stands in stark contrast to the roaring forges of the Vikings. Here, the creation of a katana was not merely a craft, it was a spiritual ceremony demanding absolute precision and patience. The process began with the most unassuming of materials, iron sand, known as satetsu. This black sand, collected from specific riverbeds and coastal areas, was smelted in a unique clay furnace called a tatara. For 3 days and 3 nights, the smith and his assistants would tirelessly feed charcoal and iron sand into the tatara, carefully controlling the airflow to achieve a bloom of steel with a very specific carbon content. This raw steel, known as tamahagane, was the soul of the future sword, a lump of metal containing both high and low carbon steel within it. The smith would then break the bloom apart, selecting pieces with just the right carbon content for different parts of the blade. A core of softer, more flexible steel would be enveloped by a jacket of harder, high-carbon steel, creating a natural shock absorber. Then came the folding. The selected steel was heated, hammered into a flat sheet, folded over upon itself, and then hammered out again. This was not done a dozen times, but thousands of times. Each fold served a critical purpose, working out impurities and distributing carbon evenly throughout the metal, creating hundreds of thousands of microscopic layers that gave the katana its legendary strength and resilience. As sword scholar Kanzen Soto observed, the katana is more than a weapon. It is a spiritual embodiment of the smith's skill and patience. The final, defining step was the differential hardening that created the hamon, that beautiful, wavy line along the blade's edge. The smith would paint the blade with a special clay slurry, applying a thinner layer along the razor-sharp edge and a thicker layer along the back and sides. When the coated blade was heated and then plunged into water, the thinly coated edge cooled almost instantly, transforming into an incredibly hard, crystalline structure called martensite. The thicker clad spine cooled much more slowly, retaining its softer, more flexible nature. This process created a blade that was hard enough to hold a devastatingly sharp edge, yet flexible enough to bend without breaking. The legendary swords of masters like Goro Nudo Masamune are still celebrated today in museums for their perfect balance of deadly efficiency and breathtaking beauty. The methods evolved in the relative isolation of the Japanese islands, creating a unique and sustainable form of craftsmanship deeply tied to the natural resources available. This profound connection between environment and innovation raises a compelling question. What happens when a civilization's entire technological identity is built upon a resource that simply runs out? Standing over 23 feet tall in the heart of Delhi, a solid iron pillar has endured for more than 1,600 years without a single spot of rust. This is not a modern alloy, but a monument from the Gupta Empire, a testament to a metallurgical art so advanced it remains an engineering marvel today. How did ancient Indian metalworkers create something that modern stainless steel struggles to match? The secret lies not in a single trick, but in a perfect storm of material science and empirical knowledge. The iron used was remarkably pure, with a high phosphorus content and very little sulfur. This specific chemical recipe was not an accident, as materials scientist Dr. R. Balasubramaniam explains the pillar's resilience stems from a protective passive layer, a feat that modern metallurgy is only beginning to understand fully. This layer forms a thin, invisible shield that prevents oxygen from reacting with the iron, effectively putting a permanent stop to the rusting process. To achieve this, smiths would have used a specific type of iron ore, rich in phosphorus, and processed it in high-temperature furnaces. They likely employed a technique called forge welding, hammering and heating the iron in a massive, coordinated effort to create a single, solid piece. Imagine the skill required to work such a large mass of metal, ensuring its chemical homogeneity without any of our modern instruments. This was not a small-scale operation, but a monumental undertaking supported by a deep, institutional understanding of chemistry. Comparative studies with other iron artifacts from the same era are telling. While swords and tools from across the world succumbed to corrosion, often within a few generations, the iron pillar of Delhi stands as proudly as the day it was forged. It served as a powerful symbol of technological and imperial prowess, a declaration in metal that its creators had mastered the elements. So why did this incredible knowledge not become the global standard? The answer is as fragile as the knowledge itself. The specific ores required may have been limited to certain regions, and the intricate, guild-protected techniques were likely never written down, passed only from master to apprentice. When political landscapes shifted and empires faded, the delicate chain of transmission was broken. The pillar thus becomes a silent sentinel, guarding not just a location, but the ghost of a lost alloy. It forces us to ask what other material miracles have slipped through the cracks of history, leaving only enigmatic clues for us to decipher. A Spartan shield was not just a wall of wood and bronze, it was the centerpiece of their battle formation. Historical accounts suggest that some Greek city-states may have used bronze alloys for their armor and shields that were remarkably lightweight yet incredibly resilient. This leads us to the fifth great mystery, the lost alloys of the Greeks. Philosophers like Plato wrote of a legendary metal called orichalcum, said to shine like fire and possess a strength beyond ordinary bronze. While the exact nature of this material remains debated, it points to a culture deeply engaged in metallurgical experimentation. Greek smiths were not merely artisans, they were early material scientists, constantly testing blends of copper with zinc, tin, and even traces of other local ores to create superior metals. As archaeologist Dr. Elena Stolyarova notes, Greek metallurgists may have used local ore sources and innovative mixing techniques to achieve alloys that we are still trying to chemically reconstruct. Their work was supported by extensive trade networks. The island of Cyprus, a major source of copper, supplied the essential base metal, while other regions provided the tin and exotic minerals needed for their experiments. The goal was clear: to forge armor that could deflect a spear thrust and a shield that a soldier could carry for miles without fatigue. Evidence for these advanced materials is emerging from an unexpected place, the deep sea. Analyses of metal artifacts recovered from ancient shipwrecks in the Aegean have revealed unusual chemical signatures. Some bronze ingots show trace elements that are not typical of the region, suggesting a deliberate recipe aimed at altering the metal's properties. One particular case study of a helmet recovered from a wreck shows a microstructure indicating it was work hardened and annealed in a specific sequence, a complex process that would have given it a perfect balance of hardness and impact resistance. So what happened to these sophisticated formulas? The knowledge was likely a closely guarded secret of specific workshops or city-states. As those political powers declined and the intricate trade routes that supplied their unique materials were disrupted, the recipes faded from common use. The Greek example is a powerful lesson in the fragility of progress, showing that even the most advanced innovations can vanish when the cultural and economic ecosystems that support them change. This pattern of brilliant discovery followed by loss would soon be echoed and perhaps perfected by another civilization known for its engineering marvels. A Roman legionary's gladius was more than a sidearm. It was the product of history's first military-industrial complex. This was not the work of a single master smith, but the output of vast, state-controlled workshops that could equip legions stretching from Britain to the Levant. At the heart of this system lay a remarkable achievement: the mass production of high-quality steel. In provinces like Noricum, in the foothills of the Alps, rich iron ore deposits were smelted in towering bloomery furnaces. Inside these structures, iron ore and charcoal burned together for hours. As the charcoal combusted, it released carbon, which was gradually absorbed by the molten iron, transforming it into a workable, carburized steel bloom. The true genius of the Roman system, however, was in the refinement. Historian Dr. Mark Hassall notes that Roman metallurgy was a blend of empirical knowledge and logistical genius, enabling mass production without sacrificing quality. After the initial smelting, the rough bloom of iron and steel was moved to forges where a revolutionary piece of technology took over, the water-powered trip hammer. These massive mechanical hammers, driven by water wheels, pounded the heated metal with a rhythmic, relentless force no human arm could match. This process squeezed out slag and other impurities, creating a more uniform and reliable bar of steel. Archaeological evidence from Roman forts tells a compelling story. Excavations have uncovered piles of tools and weapon fragments, and metallurgical analysis shows a surprising consistency in their carbon content. This was not a matter of chance. It points to a standardized, repeatable process enforced across the empire. A sword made in a workshop in Gaul would perform nearly identically to one forged in Syria, a logistical miracle that ensured every soldier had a weapon he could depend on. This level of quality control on an industrial scale would not be seen again for over 1,000 years. So how could such a robust and systematic technology simply fade away? The fall of the Roman Empire did not happen in a single battle, but through a long, slow unraveling of its economic and political fabric. The very centralized control that enabled the system became its greatest vulnerability. As imperial authority crumbled, the vast trade networks that supplied ore and fuel were severed. The specialized workshops, dependent on state funding and military contracts, were abandoned. The knowledge of the engineers and master smiths, once preserved and propagated by the empire, became fragmented and was eventually lost in the localized, subsistence-level economies that followed. The trip hammers fell silent, and the great forges grew cold, leaving behind a mystery that would take Europe centuries to solve anew. This dramatic loss set the stage for a different kind of secret to emerge, one born not from imperial industry, but from the quiet, cloistered workshops of medieval monks. The quiet precision of a monastic forge held secrets that would have astounded the Roman legions. In the centuries following Rome's collapse, European metalworking did not simply vanish, it transformed. Behind the thick stone walls of castles and monasteries, a new kind of smith was at work, one who balanced the spiritual with the scientific to create steel that could turn a deadly blow. This is the seventh great mystery, the lost metallurgy of medieval Europe. A knight's suit of Gothic plate armor was not a clumsy shell, but a marvel of engineering. Each curved plate was carefully shaped and heat-treated to deflect weapons. Its steel hardened enough to resist a sword's edge, yet tempered enough to prevent shattering upon the impact of a mace. As arms and armor expert Dr. Alan Williams explains, medieval armorers developed methods that balanced protection and mobility, relying on trial and error refined over generations. Their success depended on a deep, intuitive understanding of their materials. They learned to work with local iron ores, which varied greatly from region to region, and developed techniques to compensate for impurities. One such method was pattern welding, a sophisticated process of twisting and forge welding different grades of iron and steel into a single billet. When a sword made this way was polished and etched, it revealed a mesmerizing, watery pattern, a hidden signature of its complex internal structure that was both beautiful and functional, creating a blade with a resilient core and a hard cutting edge. Another breakthrough was fullering, the technique of carving a narrow groove down the length of a sword blade. This was not merely decorative, it lightened the weapon without sacrificing strength, much like the I-beams in modern construction. The knowledge required for these feats was guarded fiercely within guilds and monastic communities. These workshops became living libraries of metallurgical secrets, where masters passed down precise recipes for heat treatment through oral tradition and hands-on demonstration. They knew, for instance, the exact color of the glowing steel that signaled it was ready for quenching, and the precise temperature of the water or oil that would give the metal the perfect balance of hardness and flexibility. Examining surviving examples of Gothic armor reveals their incredible skill. Modern blacksmiths attempting to replicate these pieces often find the sophisticated tempering and work hardening a significant challenge, even with today's tools and precise temperature controls. So why did this hard-won expertise begin to fade? The world was changing. The rise of effective gunpowder weapons on the battlefield rendered the finest plate armor increasingly vulnerable, shifting the focus from deflecting a sword to stopping a bullet. At the same time, the coming industrialization prioritized speed and volume over the slow, artisanal methods of the guilds. The unique, localized knowledge that produced a knight's brilliant harness could not survive the shift to standardized mass production. This European resurgence and its subsequent decline was not an isolated event, but one piece of a much larger, global puzzle of innovation and loss. Gold shimmered in the hands of a Mach metalsmith, not as a soft, pure metal, but as a resilient alloy called tembaga. By skillfully mixing gold with copper, these artisans created objects that possessed the dazzling appearance of the sun god with the hardened strength needed for ceremonial use. This was the eighth great mystery, the advanced metalcrafts of the Americas, which developed in complete isolation from the techniques of Europe and Asia. Across the Andes, the Inca and their predecessors were not merely working with metal, they were redefining its possibilities. Anthropologist Dr. Heather Lechtman notes that Andean metallurgists achieved technical feats, such as platinum working, that were unparalleled elsewhere at the time. Platinum's incredibly high melting point made it seem unworkable to European smiths for centuries, yet here, ancient American craftsmen were sintering it, fusing fine platinum dust with gold through a sophisticated process of heating and hammering to create stunning, durable artifacts. Their innovations were deeply woven into the fabric of spiritual and social life. Metals were not just materials, they were sacred elements. A ceremonial tumi knife used in important rituals was not simply a weapon. It was a symbolic object, often plated in gold and crafted from an arsenic bronze alloy that naturally resisted the harsh coastal environment. This was a deliberate choice, a blend of practical durability and profound religious significance. The very methods of creation reflected this worldview. The lost wax casting technique allowed for breathtaking complexity. An artisan would sculpt a detailed object in beeswax, encase it in clay to create a mold, and then fire it. The wax would melt away, leaving a hollow form into which molten metal was poured, capturing every intricate detail of the original sculpture. This process produced objects of stunning artistry, from elaborate ear spools to figures of deities, each one a testament to a culture that saw metal as a bridge between the earthly and the divine. How did European colonization disrupt these vibrant traditions? The arrival of new powers fundamentally altered the cultural and economic landscape. The Spanish conquest prioritized the melting down of sacred objects for their bullion value, dismantling the very institutions and spiritual contexts that gave the metallurgical knowledge its purpose. The master-apprentice chains were broken, and the demand for traditional ceremonial items collapsed under the weight of new rulers and new gods. The American story is a powerful reminder that technological brilliance was a global phenomenon, emerging independently wherever human ingenuity met necessity. This global tapestry of innovation naturally draws our gaze to another continent, where the forgers of Africa were achieving their own metallurgical wonders. Across the continent, the towering stone walls of Great Zimbabwe were not the only testament to African ingenuity. for the very tools that built them were forged in furnaces of remarkable sophistication. In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, iron smelting was an alchemy of earth, air, and fire, a process so advanced it produced high-quality steel that fueled the rise of powerful empires. The Nok culture, for instance, was creating intricate terracotta sculptures using iron tools over 2,000 years ago, a clear sign of a mature and capable metallurgical tradition. This was not a primitive technology, but a highly evolved craft. Archaeologist Dr. Shadrach Karakure emphasizes that African ironworking involved complex knowledge systems that optimized resource use and output quality, a true science born from deep observation and generational wisdom. The furnaces themselves were marvels of design. Tall, efficient shaft furnaces, often built from termite mound clay for its superior heat retention, could reach astonishing temperatures. Teams of skilled workers would operate intricate bellows systems, forcing a continuous stream of air into the chamber to supercharge the combustion. Inside this controlled inferno, a chemical transformation occurred. Through a process called carburization, carbon from the burning charcoal would slowly diffuse into the solid iron, systematically transforming it into a workable, resilient steel. But the true genius lay in the management of waste. The smelters had a masterful understanding of slag, the rocky byproduct of smelting. They designed their furnaces with specific channels and pits to carefully drain this molten slag away from the precious iron bloom, a critical step that ensured the final metal was pure and strong. This was not just technical skill, it was a deeply respected cultural practice. The master smith was a pivotal figure in the community, often holding a position akin to a spiritual leader, as the ability to command fire and earth was seen as a sacred gift. The economic impact was profound. Iron tools improved agriculture, while iron weapons secured borders and facilitated trade across vast networks. Artifacts recovered from the Swahili coast reveal a fascinating story of exchange, where local African techniques blended with ideas from traders crossing the Indian Ocean, creating unique and highly valued goods. So why did such a successful and widespread tradition decline? The reasons are complex and sobering. Colonial policies often deliberately suppressed local industries to create markets for imported European goods, breaking the economic backbone of these crafts. Simultaneously, environmental shifts, like the gradual depletion of nearby forests needed for charcoal, made large-scale production increasingly difficult. The loss was not just of a technology, but of an entire ecosystem of knowledge, status, and cultural identity that had been built around the forge. This African chapter completes a global picture, revealing that the pursuit of superior metal was a universal human endeavor, with brilliant solutions emerging independently across the world. And as we have seen from the katana to the iron pillar, some of the most enduring metallurgical secrets were being perfected under the watchful eyes of yet another ancient civilization. A Shang dynasty ritual vessel stands not merely as an artifact, but as a perfect fusion of spiritual belief and material science. Its surface, adorned with intricate tauti masks and thunder patterns, was cast from a bronze alloy so meticulously formulated that it has withstood 3,000 years of burial. This was the pinnacle of China's Bronze Age, a tradition where metallurgy was inseparable from statecraft and the divine. The casting of these sacred vessels was a state-sponsored endeavor, a direct expression of imperial power used to communicate with ancestors and legitimize rule. As sinologist Dr. Jessica Rawson observes, Chinese bronzes reflect a deep understanding of material properties, achieved through systematic experimentation and record-keeping. This empirical approach led to one of the period's most brilliant innovations, piece mold casting. Instead of carving a single, solid mold, artisans would create sections from a clay master model. These individual pieces were then fired, reassembled around a clay core, and the narrow gap between core and mold was filled with molten bronze. This complex method allowed for the creation of vessels with undercuts and breathtaking surface detail that would be impossible with simpler techniques. But the true genius lay in the alloy itself. Chinese metallurgists did not use a single bronze recipe. They perfected specific lead-tin-bronze ratios for different functions. A ritual food vessel meant to withstand frequent handling might have a higher lead content, making the metal easier to cast with sharp details. A bell or a weapon, however, required a high tin content to produce a clear, resonant tone and a much harder, more durable edge. The bronze bells of the Zhou dynasty are a stunning example of this acoustic engineering. Sets of bells, each cast with a precise blend of metals, could produce two distinct, clear tones when struck at different points, a feat that demonstrates an almost microscopic control over the material's crystalline structure. How did this bronze tradition influence later Chinese steel production? The answer lies in the infrastructure. The same centralized, state-supported system that perfected bronze casting, with its meticulous record-keeping and specialized workshops, later provided the foundation for the development of advanced iron and steel-making techniques. This created a rare thread of technological continuity, allowing knowledge to accumulate across dynasties instead of being lost. The Chinese example stands in quiet contrast to the fragmented histories of other regions, showing that the survival of a secret depends not just on the craft, but on the enduring strength of the civilization that nurtures it. The bustling markets of Samarkand were more than centers of commerce. They were the world's first think tanks for metal. Here, a Persian smith might examine a new type of steel from India, while a Chinese merchant discussed the merits of a novel furnace design. This was the hidden engine of metallurgical progress, the constant, vibrant exchange of ideas along trade routes like the Silk Road. As historian Dr. Valerie Hansen notes, the exchange of metals and methods along trade networks often led to technological synthesis that no single culture could achieve alone. These routes were living libraries carrying not just silks and spices, but the very blueprints for technological leaps. The transmission of Wootz steel is a perfect example. This exceptional raw material, forged in ancient India, traveled west to Damascus. There, local smiths, already masters of their own techniques, discovered that by carefully heating, hammering, and cooling this Indian steel, they could unlock its hidden potential, creating the legendary watered pattern blades that would become synonymous with their city. This was not a simple transfer of goods, but a true fusion of knowledge. Centuries later, the Mongol invasions created another, more violent form of exchange. As their armies moved west, they brought with them advanced metalworking ideas from their vast conquered territories, including sophisticated lamellar armor designs. European armorers facing these new threats on the battlefield were forced to adapt. They studied, they experimented, and they ultimately synthesized these foreign concepts with their own methods, leading to the development of the highly articulated plate armor that would define the late medieval knight. Maritime trade played an equally vital role. Across the Indian Ocean, the sophisticated iron smelting techniques of sub-Saharan Africa reached the Swahili coast. There, they interacted with technologies brought by Arab and Persian traders, creating unique hybrid methods that produced iron goods highly prized across the maritime world. Another clear case of this global conversation is the story of brass. The secret of making this golden alloy by combining copper with zinc was perfected in the Islamic world. Through trade and cultural contact, this knowledge slowly filtered into medieval Europe, where it revolutionized everything from decorative art to nautical instruments. What can our modern, hyper-connected world learn from these ancient exchanges? They remind us that innovation rarely happens in isolation. It thrives at the crossroads, in the spaces where different perspectives meet and merge. The greatest metallurgical secrets were often not born in a single forge, but were assembled piece by piece across continents. This global interplay of ideas, however, was always at the mercy of the land itself, shaped by the very earth that provided its raw materials. A civilization's metallurgical destiny was often written in the stones beneath its feet. The unique phosphoric iron ore of India gave the world its rust-defying pillar, just as the rich tin deposits of Cornwall fueled the Bronze Age across Europe. Geography was not just a backdrop, it was the very source of a society's potential for technological leaps. Environmental historian Dr. John McNeill notes that the sustainability of metallurgical practices often depended on renewable resources, and overexploitation could lead to technological collapse. This reveals a profound truth: the most brilliant metalworking secrets were not just ideas, they were physical processes tied to a specific place and its natural wealth. A technique could only survive as long as the ecosystem that supported it. Consider the immense demand for charcoal. To produce just 1 kilogram of iron, a Roman or Viking smith needed the charcoal from an entire mature oak tree. Vast forests were slowly consumed to feed the insatiable appetites of forges and furnaces. In regions where woodlands were managed carefully, the craft could thrive for generations. But where demand outstripped regrowth, the result was a quiet crisis. The famous bronze workshops of the Eastern Mediterranean, for instance, faced a slow decline as the tin mines they depended upon were gradually exhausted, forcing a costly and difficult shift to the new technology of iron. It was not that iron was inherently superior at first, but that the old way was becoming ecologically impossible. Water was another indispensable partner. River systems did more than just quench thirsty metal, they provided the power. The Romans harnessed flowing water to drive their massive trip hammers, a mechanical advantage that allowed for the mass production of quality steel. In Japan, the constant, reliable flow of mountain streams was essential for powering the bellows of the Tatara furnace and for the precise quenching of katana blades. A community that lost access to its clean, flowing water source due to drought or siltation would find its entire metallurgical identity at risk. Even the purity of the local ore played a decisive role. The legendary properties of Damascus steel were only possible because of specific iron ores from India that contained trace amounts of vanadium. When those particular mines were depleted or trade routes to them were severed, the entire recipe for creating those miraculous blades became nothing more than a theoretical formula, impossible to replicate without its essential ingredients. This deep interconnection between craft and climate raises a pressing question for our own time. How do our modern struggles with resource scarcity and environmental impact mirror these ancient challenges? We see similar patterns today, where the availability of rare earth elements dictates the pace of our technological innovation. The story of lost metallurgy teaches us that a technology is only as resilient as the resource base that supports it. The true guardians of these ancient secrets, then, were not just the master smiths, but the stewards of the forests and the waters. When that guardianship failed, the knowledge itself faded into legend, leaving us to wonder what other miracles were forged not in a vacuum of genius, but in a delicate and ultimately breakable partnership with the earth. A master swordsmith in feudal Japan might spend a decade apprenticed before being trusted to mix the clay slurry for the blade's final hardening. This was not merely a job, it was an initiation into a sacred trust where the most critical steps were never written down. Across civilizations, from the guild halls of medieval Europe to the secluded workshops of Damascus, the guardians of metallurgical secrets were not lone geniuses but members of tightly knit societies. These groups operated like living fortresses, their walls built not of stone but of ritual, oral tradition, and strict regulation. Anthropologist Dr. Patrick McGovern notes that the mystique surrounding smiths helped maintain high standards, but also made knowledge vulnerable to loss if lineages were broken. The initiation into a smithing guild was often a profound ceremony. A young apprentice might swear an oath of secrecy, sometimes sealed with a symbolic act, binding him to his master and the craft for life. The knowledge itself was encoded in a private language of metaphor and sensory cues. A recipe was not a list of measurements, but a set of instructions passed down through demonstration, a secret passed from one pair of hands to another. The master would speak of the metal glowing with the color of the setting sun, or the water for quenching needing to be as cold as a mountain stream in winter. This symbolic language protected the craft from outsiders, but it also meant the knowledge existed only in the minds and muscles of a select few. The great sword-making families of Japan, like the Masamune and Muramasa lineages, are a powerful example. Their techniques for creating the perfect hamon, the wave pattern on a katana, were family treasures, divulged only to a chosen heir. If a master died unexpectedly, or a line ended without a worthy successor, centuries of refined understanding could vanish in a single generation. This culture of secrecy created an incredible stability and quality within the craft, but it was a stability built on a fragile foundation. It raises a compelling question about the nature of innovation itself. Does profound knowledge flourish best when guarded or when shared? The human stories behind these artisans reveal a tragic irony. The very measures taken to protect their advanced techniques are what ultimately consigned so many of them to oblivion. When political upheaval, conflict, or economic change disrupted these delicate social networks, the lights in the forges went out for good, leaving behind magnificent artifacts whose methods we are still struggling to reverse engineer. A scanning electron microscope reveals a hidden world within a Viking sword, a landscape of crystalline structures and carbon nanotubes that should not exist in a medieval artifact. This is the frontier of archaeometallurgy, where modern science meets ancient craft in a quest to decode lost knowledge. In laboratories around the world, historians, chemists, and engineers are collaborating, using tools like X-ray fluorescence and isotopic analysis to ask questions the written records cannot answer. As scientist Dr. Marcos Martin-on-Torres explains, modern analytics allow us to reverse engineer ancient artifacts, revealing complexities that written records alone cannot capture. One of the most powerful techniques is tracing the very fingerprints of the Earth. By analyzing the unique isotopic signatures in a piece of metal, researchers can pinpoint the specific mine the original ore was hauled from, mapping ancient trade routes with a precision that rewrites our understanding of global connections. A sword found in a Scandinavian memorial site might contain iron from the Rhine Valley, telling a story of commerce and conflict that spans the continent. But knowing the ingredients is only half the battle. The true magic was in the recipe and the process. This is where experimental archaeology takes center stage. Teams build full-scale replicas of ancient furnaces, using only period-appropriate materials, and attempt to smelt iron or cast bronze using hypothesized techniques. These are not simple reenactments. They are rigorous scientific trials measuring temperatures, airflow, and chemical changes at every stage. The goal is to witness the same conditions an ancient smith would have faced, to feel the same challenges and perhaps stumble upon the same solutions. A famous case study involves the decades-long effort to recreate the watery pattern of Damascus steel. Researchers knew the source was Wootz steel from India, but the exact thermal cycling and forging rhythm remained a mystery. Through painstaking trial and error, they discovered that the steel must be heated to a very specific, narrow temperature window, just below its melting point, and then cooled with an exacting slowness. Only then would the carbon arrange itself into the microscopic structures that produce the legendary pattern and properties. Digital modeling adds another layer to this detective work. Engineers can now create virtual simulations of a forging process, testing thousands of variations of hammer blows, fold counts, and quenching media in a digital space before ever lighting a furnace. This computational power helps narrow the possibilities, guiding the physical experiments toward the most promising methods. So how close are we to fully reclaiming these lost arts? In some cases, we can replicate the appearance, but the effortless mastery, the consistent perfection achieved by the ancient masters, still often eludes us. We can make a blade that looks like an Ulfbert, but the subtle, uniform quality across thousands of weapons, the hallmark of a true industrial system, is a higher bar to clear. These investigations do more than solve historical puzzles. They are a wellspring of inspiration for modern materials science, offering proven solutions to challenges we are still grappling with today. The ghost of a Damascus blade now lives within a modern laboratory. Its legendary strength, born from microscopic carbon nanotubes, provides a blueprint for developing new polymers and ceramics with incredible toughness. This is not mere historical curiosity. It is a powerful dialogue across centuries where the empirical genius of ancient smiths is guiding the future of materials science. Aerospace engineers, for instance, look directly to the katana for inspiration. The layered construction of hard and soft steel that gives the sword its resilience is a perfect analog for the composite materials used in aircraft wings and fuselages today. By stacking layers of carbon fiber and resin in a similar, laminated structure, they create components that are both incredibly light and able to withstand tremendous forces, a principle known in engineering as damage tolerance. As materials scientist Dr. Julia Greer observes, studying historical metals can lead to biomimetic designs that are both efficient and resilient, echoing the ingenuity of ancient smiths. This ancient wisdom is finding new life at the smallest scales. The quest to understand the self-organizing patterns in Damascus steel has directly fueled research into controlling the growth of carbon nanotubes for use in electronics and sensors. We are essentially learning how to grow modern materials using recipes that were, in effect, discovered over 1,000 years ago. Even the fight against corrosion is being revolutionized by the past. The same phosphoric iron that protected the Delhi pillar is now inspiring the development of new, non-toxic protective coatings for steel bridges and ships, aiming to replicate that passive layer without relying on environmentally harmful chemicals. Perhaps one of the most profound applications lies in medicine. Researchers are developing new high-strength, biocompatible alloys for surgical implants, their compositions subtly informed by the nuanced recipes of historical bronzes and steels that demonstrated remarkable longevity within challenging environments. These are not copies of ancient artifacts, but evolutions, using advanced diagnostics to understand why those old formulas worked so well, and then applying that underlying principle to modern needs. So what other secrets might these lost metallurgical arts hold for future innovation? The answer may lie in their sustainable elegance. Ancient methods were often deeply attuned to their local environment, using minimal energy and locally sourced materials to achieve maximum effect. In an era increasingly concerned with green manufacturing and reducing industrial waste, this ancient philosophy of working with nature rather than overpowering it may be the most valuable secret we have yet to fully recover. The collapse of a single empire could erase centuries of innovation in a generation. Historian Dr. Jared Diamond reminds us that technological regression often occurs when societies face crises that disrupt the transmission of complex knowledge, especially in oral traditions. This was the fate of many metallurgical secrets, lost not in a single cataclysm but through a slow unraveling of the social and economic fabric that supported them. Invasions played a devastating role, not merely by conquering territory but by systematically dismantling the centers of production. When a city known for its master smiths was sacked, the workshops were the first targets, their artisans scattered or lost, breaking the living chain of master to apprentice forever. Economic shifts could be just as destructive. The arrival of gunpowder on European battlefields, for instance, gradually reduced the demand for the exquisitely tempered plate armor and elite swords that had been the pinnacle of the smith's art. Why invest a year in a single suit of armor when a common musket could render it obsolete? The very value of that specialized knowledge plummeted, and with no one left to teach, the methods faded from memory. Industrialization brought its own form of loss, prioritizing standardized, mass-produced goods over the unique artisanal diversity of local forges. The subtle variations in technique that produced a specific pattern in steel or a unique bronze alloy were smoothed over in the name of efficiency and uniformity. We see this in the mysterious case of Greek orichalcum, a legendary alloy whose recipe seemingly vanished after the widespread disruptions of the Bronze Age collapse, when trade routes faltered and the specialized industries that relied on them dissolved. In Africa, sophisticated local iron smelting traditions, once the backbone of regional economies, were deliberately suppressed by colonial policies that favored imported European goods, severing the economic incentive for communities to continue their ancient practices. Each of these factors, warfare, secrecy, economic change, and environmental pressure, acted like strands in a rope, and when enough strands were cut, the entire structure of knowledge came apart. What does this tell us about our own technological civilization? It underscores a humbling truth that our most advanced innovations are not permanent possessions. They are a legacy constantly requiring renewal, protection, and a society stable enough to pass the torch from one generation to the next. The search to reclaim what was lost, therefore, becomes more than historical curiosity. It is an urgent lesson in preserving the very foundations of progress. The glow of a reconstructed medieval furnace illuminates a remarkable partnership where a historian's research notes meet a modern blacksmith's practiced hammer. This is the tangible work of revival, a global movement dedicated to breathing life back into forgotten forges. Craftspeople like Rick Ferrer, who has dedicated his career to this pursuit, emphasize that by hands-on replication, we not only honor the past but also uncover nuances that texts alone cannot convey. It is a dialogue with history conducted through fire and metal. These revivalists operate in a unique space, blending the intuitive feel of traditional tools with the precise diagnostics of modern science. They might use a thermocouple to monitor the exact temperature inside a clay furnace while simultaneously judging the readiness of the steel by the color of its glow, a skill passed down through generations of oral tradition. Museums have become vital hubs for this work, hosting public workshops where visitors can witness the forging of a pattern-welded blade, each hammer strike echoing methods once thought lost. Online, digital forums create a global guild hall where a blacksmith in Texas can share a high-resolution micrograph of a blade's edge with a historian in Poland, crowdsourcing insights to solve a centuries-old problem of heat treatment. Universities are increasingly integrating these pursuits into their materials science curricula, treating historical artifacts as case studies in advanced engineering. One prominent case study revolves around the successful reproduction of Ulfbert-style swords. After decades of failed attempts, revivalists combined archaeological data with metallurgical analysis to pinpoint the specific type of high-carbon steel and the exact forging sequence required. The challenge was immense, requiring a furnace that could sustain a consistent high temperature for hours, a feat that pushed the limits of both historical accuracy and modern perseverance. What other obstacles stand in the way? Sourcing the correct raw materials is a constant struggle, as many of the specific iron ores used by ancient smiths are no longer accessible. The loss of the master-apprentice system means that every subtle technique, from the exact swing of the hammer to the intuitive timing of the quench, must be painstakingly rediscovered through endless, costly trial and error. Yet each successful revival, each blade that rings true and holds an edge, forges a living connection to our shared human ingenuity. It proves that these arts are not entirely lost but dormant, waiting for the right combination of curiosity and respect to bring them back into the light. A master smith's formula was once a communal treasure, not merely a set of instructions but a piece of a people's identity. When modern efforts seek to resurrect these lost arts, they step into a delicate space where science meets cultural heritage. The central ethical question is not if we can recover a technique, but how we do so with respect for the communities who are its living legacy. Ethicist Dr. George Nicholas offers a guiding principle, stating that when we recover lost technologies, we must consider who benefits and how to avoid exploiting traditional knowledge without acknowledgement. This perspective urges a shift from extraction to collaboration. For instance, initiatives to revive specific Native American metalworking traditions are increasingly led by or conducted in close partnership with members of those communities. This ensures the knowledge serves cultural preservation first, and that any broader application is guided by their values and consent. The goal is to avoid a scenario where an ancient craft becomes a commercial product disconnected from its profound original meaning. Another layer of complexity arises with the potential for misuse. The very properties that made Damascus steel legendary on a medieval battlefield could have unsettling applications if resurrected for contemporary conflict. While the primary focus of research is on peaceful innovation, the history of these techniques reminds us that knowledge itself is neutral and its application rests in our hands. This leads to the challenging question of intellectual property. Can or should a centuries-old method be patented? There are documented cases where corporations have attempted to claim rights over traditional designs or processes, a practice often termed biopiracy when it involves biological resources, but equally applicable to cultural techniques. Such actions can prevent the very communities who nurtured the knowledge from using it freely. The solution lies in frameworks that recognize collective ownership and ensure that benefits, whether financial or reputational, are shared equitably. How then do we navigate this path? The answer appears to lie in viewing metallurgy not just as a technical puzzle to be solved, but as a form of cultural dialogue. It requires listening as much as experimenting, and understanding that the most valuable outcome may not be a perfect replica of a blade, but a renewed relationship with the human story it represents. This thoughtful approach naturally invites a deeper question about the very nature of the secrets we seek. The spiral of history turns, but it does not always ascend. Our journey through these lost metals reveals a profound truth, that the pinnacle of human innovation is not a permanent summit but a fleeting moment, vulnerable to the winds of time. This challenges the very core of our modern belief in linear progress, where newer is assumed to be inherently better. As philosopher Dr. Alison Wiley notes, ancient technologies force us to reconsider linear narratives of history, revealing that sophistication can be achieved through diverse paths and then forgotten. The master smith, who intuitively felt the perfect temperature for quenching a blade, was engaging in a form of high-level empiricism, a deep science of the hands that rivaled the theoretical understanding we prize today. Consider the parallel between medieval alchemy and modern materials science. Both sought to transmute base substances into something superior, to unlock the hidden potential within matter. One was dismissed as mystical pursuit, while the other is celebrated as cutting-edge research. Yet the fundamental human drive, the desire to reshape the world through material manipulation, is identical. This raises a compelling question about the nature of knowledge itself. Is a formula written in a textbook inherently more valuable than a technique passed through the rhythmic hammer blows of a master teaching an apprentice? The disappearance of these arts speaks volumes about the fragility of our creative legacy. It suggests that advancement is not merely about discovery, but about the resilient ecosystems, social, economic, and environmental, that allow knowledge to be preserved and transmitted across generations. When those ecosystems fracture, the light of understanding can flicker and die, regardless of its brilliance. This cyclical pattern of discovery and oblivion invites a necessary humility in our own age of technocracy. We are forced to ask what foundational knowledge we might be overlooking or even discarding in our rush toward the next digital frontier. The mythology that grew around certain blades, stories of indestructible steel and watery patterns, was not mere superstition. It was a cultural container for a reality that was too advanced for contemporary science to explain, a way of encoding wonder and respect for an achievement that bordered on the miraculous. These stories served as a beacon, a lingering cultural memory that whispered of a possibility, ensuring that the quest for these lost secrets would never fully be abandoned. The glow of Hephaestus's divine forge illuminates a profound truth, that mythology and metallurgy were once inseparable. Ancient smiths did not merely work metal, they channeled what seemed like supernatural power, their real-world achievements so advanced they could only be explained through the language of gods and heroes. Folklorist Dr. Adrian Mayer suggests that myths about unbreakable swords or golden armor may have roots in actual technological breakthroughs, exaggerated through storytelling. This was not mere superstition, but a cultural framework for understanding wonders that defied ordinary experience. Across cultures, the master smith held a status bordering on the sacred, often seen as an intermediary between the human and the divine. In West African traditions, the god Ogun presided over both iron and the forge, a clear acknowledgement that the ability to transform rock into tools was a fundamental spiritual power. Norse legends spoke of dwarven smiths crafting magical items in their underground workshops, a poetic reflection of the very real, secretive guilds that produced masterpieces like the Ulfbert sword. The epic poem Mahabharata offers a stunning example of this fusion. It describes arrows that could not be countered and armor that was impenetrable, narratives that likely preserved the memory of advanced arrowhead metallurgy and sophisticated armor crafting techniques developed during the Iron Age. The symbolic meaning of metals themselves was deeply woven into ritual. Gold was not merely shiny, it was the flesh of the sun god, incorruptible and eternal. Silver was associated with the moon and purity, while iron was the metal of Mars, embodying strength and conflict. These associations were not arbitrary. They were direct responses to the observed properties of the materials, encoded into the very core of spiritual life. Consider the legend of Sigurd's sword, Gram, from Norse mythology. The story tells of a blade shattered and then reforged to become stronger than before, a narrative that perfectly mirrors the real-world process of pattern welding and heat treatment used to create superior weapons. In China, tales of master swordsmiths like Gan Jiong, and mo ye speak of a husband and wife who sacrificed their lives to achieve spiritual unity with their blades, a powerful metaphor for the total dedication and almost alchemical transformation required to produce a perfect katana. These stories did more than entertain. They preserved technical concepts in an accessible, memorable form, passing the essence of a craft down through generations even when the precise methods were lost. How does this mythological lens shape our perception of ancient innovation? It reminds us that every rust-free pillar and every patterned blade was not just a product of technique, but the fulfillment of a cultural dream, an attempt to reach for the divine through the mastery of the earthly elements. This rich tapestry of legend and craft sets the stage for the tangible evidence waiting to be unearthed. A corroded lump of metal, pulled from the earth after centuries, can rewrite entire chapters of human history. At an excavation site, what appears to be a simple piece of rust transforms under laboratory analysis into a complex alloy, its unique composition pointing to a technological sophistication we never knew existed. These archaeological breakthroughs are the tangible keys to unlocking lost metallurgical secrets, moving us beyond legend and into the realm of verifiable fact. Interdisciplinary teams now act as historical detectives, using ground-penetrating radar to map buried workshops without disturbing a single stone. They perform chemical assays on ancient slag heaps, the waste product of smelting, to determine the exact temperatures and recipes used. Contextual dating of artifacts found alongside these metal samples allows researchers to build a precise timeline of innovation and trade. As archaeologist Dr. Brenda Fowler explains, each discovery is a puzzle piece, helping us map the spread and sophistication of ancient metalworking across continents. The significance of these finds is often staggering. Consider the Antikythera mechanism, a device recovered from an ancient shipwreck. Its intricate system of bronze gears, engineered with a precision that would not be seen again for a millennium, reveals a Hellenistic world far more mechanically advanced than we had ever imagined. This was not just a simple tool, but a complex analog computer for tracking celestial movements, its alloys formulated for durability and precise casting. Far to the north, the analysis of Celtic chariot fittings has upended our view of Iron Age Europe. These were not rough, utilitarian objects. Metallurgical studies show evidence of advanced ironworking, including sophisticated welding and tempering techniques that produced components both incredibly strong and remarkably lightweight, allowing for the swift, agile war chariots described by Roman historians. In South America, the uncovering of pre-Columbian platinum artifacts presented a mystery that baffled researchers for decades. Platinum's exceptionally high melting point made it seemingly impossible to work with the technology of the time. Yet, ancient artisans there had developed a method of sintering, meticulously fusing platinum dust with gold through careful heating and hammering to create stunning ceremonial objects. This was an independent invention of powder metallurgy, a technique the modern world would not patent until the 19th century. Further evidence comes from the study of Ottoman cannon alloys. These massive siege weapons, which famously battered the walls of Constantinople, were cast from a unique type of bronze that incorporated specific trace elements. This deliberate recipe gave the metal the ideal balance of strength and ductility, preventing the massive barrels from cracking upon firing, a metallurgical understanding that directly influenced the course of military history. Each of these case studies challenges our assumptions about historical timelines, proving that periods we once considered technologically static were, in fact, eras of vibrant experimentation and genius. What future discoveries, still hidden beneath desert sands or deep ocean floors, might further illuminate these profound mysteries? Every shard of metal pulled from the ground is a direct link to the hands that forged it, providing undeniable evidence of arts long since vanished from living memory. A soldier's life could depend on the molecular structure of his sword. On battlefields from the deserts of the Holy Land to the fields of France, the hidden quality of metal often dictated the visible outcome of war. The clash between European knights and Saracen warriors during the Crusades provides a stark example. European broadswords, often made of softer, more brittle iron, would chip, bend, or even shatter against the resilient, finely patterned blades of Damascus steel. This was not merely a difference in craftsmanship, it was a technological gulf that forced a complete re-evaluation of military tactics. As military historian Dr. John Lynn explains, the quality of metal in weapons was not just about individual combat, it affected logistics, morale, and long-term campaign sustainability. An army that could not trust its primary arms was an army perpetually on the defensive, forced to carry spare weapons and constantly repair broken ones, slowing its advance and draining its spirit. The Roman legionary system offers a powerful contrast in how metallurgy could be harnessed for strategic dominance. The standardized, high-carbon steel of the gladius and pilum was a force multiplier. Every soldier from Britain to Syria wielded a weapon of reliable hardness and sharpness. This consistency simplified training, streamlined supply lines, and created a tactical predictability that Roman commanders could exploit. A legionary knew his sword would not fail him when thrust into an opponent's shield, and this confidence was as vital a component of the Roman war machine as the metal itself. In Japan, the unique properties of the katana directly shaped samurai combat. The blade's incredible sharpness and resilience allowed for the development of precise, single-stroke techniques designed to defeat armor with minimal effort. The sword was not a crude bludgeon, but a sophisticated tool for a highly specialized form of warfare, its very design a product of the advanced metallurgy that made such a weapon possible. Even the famous English victory at Agincourt owes a debt to metal. The arrowheads launched from the English longbows were not simple iron points. They were carefully forged and hardened to a specific temper, allowing them to punch through the plate armor of the French knights. Without this crucial attention to material quality, the hailstorm of arrows might have bounced harmlessly away, changing the course of European history. The eventual loss of these advanced techniques created a vacuum. When the secrets of making Damascus steel faded, the military advantage it provided evaporated, altering the balance of power in the region. The disappearance of Roman industrial-scale steelmaking left Europe in a technological depression that lasted for centuries, during which the quality of arms and armor significantly declined. This military lens makes the stakes painfully clear. The loss of a metallurgical secret was not just a cultural tragedy. It could mean the difference between a civilization's expansion and its collapse. A classroom furnace glows not just with heat, but with the rekindled fire of ancient knowledge. In schools and universities worldwide, students are now gathering around reconstructed forges, learning to smelt iron using methods that would have been familiar to a Roman smith or a Viking master. This hands-on experience does more than teach a skill. It forges a direct, tangible link to our shared human heritage, transforming lost arts from abstract concepts into a living, breathing practice. Educational initiatives are recognizing that to truly preserve this knowledge, we must move it from the museum case into the classroom and the public square. As educator Dr. Maria Verja-Starsman notes, by integrating historical metallurgy into STEM curricula, we foster critical thinking about technology's evolution and its social context. This approach connects the chemistry of carburization with the history of trade routes, showing students that innovation never exists in a vacuum. Living history museums have become vital stages for this revival. At sites like Colonial Williamsburg or the Viking Museum in Lofoten, master blacksmiths demonstrate forging techniques in real time. Their rhythmic hammer blows answering questions that textbooks cannot. Visitors do not just see a finished sword, they witness the entire arduous process, from the gathering of raw iron sand to the final, dramatic quench that hardens the steel. This public demonstration demystifies the craft and sparks a deeper appreciation for the ingenuity of past civilizations. Beyond physical demonstrations, digital preservation is creating an immortal archive. Universities and cultural institutions are collaborating to build extensive online databases, cataloging not just artifacts but the very recipes and techniques used to create them. High-resolution scans of blade edges, detailed logs of alloy compositions, and video recordings of master smiths at work are being stored in digital repositories, ensuring that this knowledge can survive any future physical loss. The work of preservation extends into sophisticated conservation labs, like those at the Smithsonian Institution, where the goal is not merely to stabilize a corroded artifact, but to reverse engineer the skill that made it. Scientists there analyze the crystalline structure of ancient metals, using their findings to inform modern blacksmiths attempting to recreate the same properties. This creates a powerful feedback loop where the past informs the present, and the present, in turn, helps safeguard the past. For those feeling inspired to take up the hammer themselves, a growing network of workshops offers introductory courses in traditional blacksmithing. These workshops are more than hobbies, they are the new apprenticeships, keeping the foundational skills alive and passing them to a new generation. Cultural heritage organizations are now formally recognizing the importance of this intangible knowledge. Programs like UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List are beginning to include traditional metalworking, acknowledging that the true value lies not just in the object, but in the hands and minds that can create it anew. So what can individuals do to support this vital work? Visiting living history museums, supporting cultural institutions, or even enrolling in a local blacksmithing class all contribute to a global ecosystem of preservation. Every person who watches a demonstration or tries their hand at the forge becomes part of the chain of transmission, ensuring that the brilliant, hard-won secrets of our ancestors do not fade into silence a second time. By making these techniques accessible to all, we ensure that the lessons of lost metallurgy will continue to inspire future innovation, guiding our own technological journey with the timeless wisdom of the forge. A supercomputer analyzes 1 billion possible forging sequences, searching for the one variable that unlocks the perfect blade. This is the new frontier in our quest, where artificial intelligence and quantum computing are becoming our most powerful tools for time travel. Futurist Dr. Michio Kaku suggests that the past holds blueprints for future innovations, and that ancient metallurgy could guide us in creating materials for extreme environments, from deep sea to Mars. We are no longer limited to physical reconstructions. Researchers can now feed every known parameter, from ore composition to furnace temperature fluctuations, into a neural network. The artificial intelligence then runs countless digital simulations, testing combinations of heat, pressure, and timing that a human smith might never have the lifetime to attempt. It can identify the precise moment when carbon nanotubes form in a virtual ingot of Wootz steel, potentially revealing the lost rhythm of the Damascus forge. Another revolutionary approach involves analyzing the genetic material trapped within the microfractures of an ancient artifact. Tiny residues of pollen, bacteria, or even the smith's own skin cells can be sequenced, telling us not just about the metal, but about the environment of the workshop itself. This organic history could reveal the secret ingredients, perhaps a specific plant extract used in the quenching oil or a type of clay from a sacred riverbank that gave a blade its unique properties. We are even beginning to look beyond our planet for answers. The study of meteoritic iron used by some ancient cultures provides clues about working with exotic nickel alloys, knowledge that is directly applicable to designing habitats for space. The self-organizing structures found in some historical metals are inspiring a new field of quantum materials, where substances are engineered to have properties we once thought were magical. Global collaborations are forming to tackle the remaining puzzles. An international consortium is currently attempting to create a new, universally available corrosion-proof metal based on the precise phosphoric composition of the Delhi pillar. Their goal is not just to replicate it, but to understand the fundamental principles so well that we can apply it to modern infrastructure, building bridges and ships that stand for millennia. Virtual reality offers another profound tool. Soon, we might don a headset and step into a fully reconstructed Roman workshop, hearing the roar of the furnace and feeling the virtual heat as we practice the motions of a master smith, learning through immersive experience what was once only taught by hand. What enduring questions still remain? We have yet to find the exact mine that produced the ore for the first Ulfbert swords, or to definitively recreate the resonant bronze of a Zhou dynasty bell. The full recipe for Greek orichalcum is still a subject of intense debate. The greatest mystery may not be a single formula, but the very nature of the empirical genius that consistently achieved such perfection without our modern instruments. This forward-looking perspective makes one thing clear: the search for these lost arts is accelerating, driven by technologies that are themselves centuries ahead of their time. The dialogue between the ancient forge and the modern lab is just beginning, and its discoveries promise to reshape our future as profoundly as these lost metals once shaped our past. These echoes from the forge are a powerful reminder that human brilliance is both resilient and fragile. We have journeyed from the frozen north to the Indian plains, uncovering how the Ulfbert sword's purity and the Delhi pillar's defiance of rust were not happy accidents, but the fruits of deep, systematic knowledge. These achievements were born at the crossroads of global trade, shaped by local environments and perfected by generations of skilled hands. Their subsequent disappearance teaches us a humbling lesson: that innovation is not a permanent possession but a legacy that must be actively maintained. The very secrecy that protected these crafts, the conflicts that shattered empires, and the slow shifts in economy and climate all conspired to extinguish flames of understanding that had burned brightly for centuries. To study these lost arts is to do more than solve historical puzzles. It enriches our grasp of human potential and directly inspires the materials shaping our own world, from aerospace composites to medical implants. It underscores a vital truth that our technological civilization rests on a foundation just as delicate as those of the past. Let these stories of vanished steel and forgotten alloys inspire your own curiosity. Visit a museum and look closely at the metalwork in historical artifacts, considering the hands that shaped them. Support the institutions and craftspeople dedicated to preserving these intangible skills. Your engagement helps keep this flame of knowledge alive. We would love to hear which mystery captivated you the most. Was it the watery pattern of Damascus steel, the silent endurance of the iron pillar, or the global journey of the Viking blade? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey into the puzzles of our past, subscribe for more explorations. Together, we ensure that the legacy of these ancient masters continues to illuminate our path